It's Tuesday, December 2nd. News from CBC Radio 2.
On a little-known program within the RCMP. It has to do with a hangar full of police aircraft and alleged misconduct within the fleet. A report will be released later today. We don't know what's in it, but the government has been fighting its release through the courts. From Ottawa, here's the CBC's Julie Kelly.
The report looks into alleged misconduct with the RCMP's Air Security Division. This is a small fleet of aircraft owned by the RCMP here in Ottawa. We don't know a lot about the details of the report, but certainly the way it's being handled strongly suggests it's something controversial. The government and the RCMP recently went to court to try to keep the details of its findings secret. The court has now dismissed that attempt, and the report will be released later this morning. What's unusual here is the attempt to muzzle the Public Sector Integrity Commissioner before he said anything. Yesterday, the Public Safety Minister and the head of the RCMP held a news conference to announce that the RCMP Accountability Act is now in force. This is apparently an attempt to get out ahead of a story that may not look good on the government. Louise Elliott, CBC News, Ottawa.
Lebanon's army says it's detained a wife and son of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He's the leader of ISIS and one of the most wanted men in the world. According to an army statement, they were caught 10 days ago as they tried to cross the border from Syria, allegedly with fake passports. Unnamed sources also tell local news agencies that the pair is being questioned by authorities and are of interest to many foreign governments. A study released by the University of Oxford is suggesting a possible turning point in the global fight against AIDS. The findings show that HIV is evolving. It's becoming less infectious, which means it will take longer to become AIDS. The CBC's Briar Stewart reports.
What they wanted to look at was the evolution of HIV, and to do that, they studied hundreds of women in both Botswana and South Africa. They chose these two countries because not only is there a high rate of HIV infection there, but in Botswana, there was a high rate of infection much prior to South Africa, so they were able to compare the progression of the virus. And what they found is that when the virus enters certain immune systems, in order to survive, it has to mutate, and when that happens, it becomes weaker, and it impedes its ability to replicate. They also found that there was an effect of antiretroviral bugs, a wider effect, because they said when these drugs are being used over time, what's happening is that it's targeting the harshest type of the virus, and it's the milder forms that are thriving. So again, it's becoming more watered down as the virus progresses.
That's Briar Stewart in London. Consumers are continuing to benefit from the falling price of oil. Some delivery costs are finally going down with the lowest prices of fuel pumps in 3 years. But as Philadelphia reports, not all fuel surcharges are coming down.
Consumers sending packages are getting a break, but the overall cost of moving cargo still hasn't moved by much. The standard trucking fuel surcharge recommended by the Freight Carriers Association is where it was in September, when gas was 15 cents more at the pumps. And fuel surcharges for sending cargo by sea will still likely go up in the coming weeks. Perhaps the most contentious fuel charge is the one on tickets for international flights. Lower jet fuel costs haven't translated into lower airfares. Airline analyst Robert Kokonis says it could still be a few more weeks.
Carriers do collect fuel surcharges as a revenue, and so they can be used as a commercial pricing tool in a very hyper-competitive marketplace.
In the end, Kokonis says it's competition that drives airfare, not fuel costs. Philadelphia, CBC News, St. John's.
And the Bank of Montreal says it had a net income of just over $1 billion for the fourth quarter. The earnings of $1.63 a share were below analyst estimates. The bank also announced that its quarterly dividends will be increasing by 2 cents to 80 cents a share with the first quarter payment at the end of February. And that's news for this hour. We broadcast live and podcast at our website, cbcnews.ca. You can also hear us on Sirius XM Radio, channel 169. I'm Dan Carpenter.